This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by Natural Order Supply, one of the nation's premier cannabis cultivation supply companies located right in Grand Junction, Colorado. If you're an industrial hemp farmer and need a good supplier of cultivation supplies, whether it's lights or harvest equipment, or if you just need some advice on how to get better yields, then you need to check out Natural Order Supply over at their website at naturalordersupply.com. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Tuesday, August 11th, 2020, and you're tuned in to episode 963 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Dan Adams over at the Boston Globe takes today's top story with an important longer-form look at how Massachusetts is handling the reintegration of hundreds of thousands of previously quarantined vaporizer cartridges back into the retail stream after they have been sitting in storage since they were held up for sale by the state back in September. As part of its reaction to last year's vape health crisis, Massachusetts banned retailers from selling cannabis vaporizer cartridges, which were then held up in storage by dispensaries and manufacturers in a retail quarantine. As part of a new order from the Cannabis Control Commission, Massachusetts cannabis companies can now sell those long-stored cartridges just as long as they are labeled and at least 0.5% of a given batch passes safety tests. The big concern here, as nicely outlined by Dan, is that those cartridges have been sitting for a very long time, and it's likely that many of them have been contaminated by chemicals leaching out of their electric parts into the cannabis oils. While testing will pick up some of the contamination, it probably won't pick up all of it. From there, it's just a numbers game as to how many people could end up buying toxic products. This is an excellent story to read in full, even if you don't do business in Massachusetts. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer of New York just sent a letter to U.S. Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue asking that the USDA hold off on issuing final rules and regulations for industrial hemp until 2022. Senator Schumer wants the USDA to allow hemp farmers to continue to operate under a 2014 pilot program that is set to expire at the end of October. In his letter to Secretary Perdue, Senator Schumer said that the coronavirus crisis was making it harder for states to implement hemp regulations and that the proposed interim final rules would just create extra costs for hemp farmers without generating new revenue lines. You can read the letter in full yourself over Marijuana Moment, where you can also catch all the other fill-in details. Our final top story today is one of social justice, with Derek Harris of Louisiana just learning that he would be set free from prison following a 2008 arrest in which he was subsequently sentenced to life in jail for the sale of $30 in marijuana to an undercover police officer who knocked on his door asking to buy. One more time there, in 2008, an undercover cop knocked on Derek Harris's door, asked to buy some marijuana, bought $30 worth, and Derek, a military veteran who served in the Desert Storm War, was then thrown in prison for life. That happened because Louisiana has ridiculous racist laws. Thankfully, the Louisiana Supreme Court ruled in Mr. Harris's favor last month, granting him a new trial, which resulted in his conviction being thrown out. This is another story that you should read and realize that there are thousands and thousands more Derek Harrises in our broken criminal justice system. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Natural Order Supply, a company founded by a group of cannabis pros and growers that focuses on providing sustainable farming products that help industrial farmers grow with confidence. If your business requires farming supplies, products, or even just some knowledge and know-how, then you should check out naturalordersupply.com today and browse their wares and services. And because Natural Order Supply is a soup-to-nuts kind of ag supply company, they're there for you whether you're doing a full-blown facility build-out or if you just need harvesting supplies on the regular. Being a hemp farmer is challenging as it is. Why not work with a company like Natural Order Supply to make your day easier and your month more profitable? Just open up naturalordersupply.com today to learn all the things you need and to get in touch. That's naturalordersupply.com. All right, time for the Blitz. Late last week, a Superior Court judge in Arizona ruled in favor of a proposed ballot measure to legalize adult use marijuana, clearing the way for the initiative to go before voters in the fall. The proposed measure still is yet to be officially certified by the state, as it works through the 420,000 or so signatures submitted to hit the required mark of 237,645. If the measure does qualify as it's expected and is passed by Arizona voters, the state would set up a taxed and regulated adult use sales program built around a 16% retail sales tax rate. The plan would also include a social equity program and would give early precedence to existing medical license holders. We have a few financial reports to share with Deborah Borchard over at Green Market Report. Up first, with a look at Canadian giant Canopy Growth, which reported its first quarter fiscal 2021 numbers, with net revenue up 22% annually at $110 million, stacked on top of a net loss of $128 million, which was $66 million lower than the loss Canopy saw in the same quarter last year. So at least the numbers are in the right direction there. Pop over to Deborah's story for more here if you need it. We have another set of financials from up north, with Tilray reporting its second quarter financial results ending June 30th. The company saw its revenue for the quarter increase 10% annually to $50.4 million US, and also saw its net loss increase from $35.3 million last year to $81.7 million on the quarter for this year. Those losses were mainly driven by inventory valuation adjustments made by Tilray, along with a couple of large impairment charges. Tilray's adjusted EBITDA loss was $12.3 million, which was an improvement over last year's $18 million. New York-based Columbia Care grabs today's last financial results story, with it sharing numbers for its second quarter ending June 30th. For that quarter, Columbia Care realized combined revenue of $33 million, which drove a combined gross profit of just under $12 million and a combined adjusted EBITDA loss of $4.7 million. This one is helpful to read in full if MSOs and Columbia Care are on your radar, as the company has laid out some of their numbers broken down by state. New Cannabis Ventures has more here. The Vermont Democratic Party is taking up the cause of drug decriminalization and legalizing cannabis sales as part of its 2020 party platform, at least according to a draft obtained by Kyle Yeager over at Marijuana Moment. In that draft, the party pledges to, quote, ensure that cannabis is appropriately regulated and taxed in a manner that rights the historic wrongs of the war on drugs and that recognizes the disproportionate impact prohibition has had on minority communities, unquote, while also saying, quote, we must end the criminalization of poverty, addiction, and otherness, unquote, and well said. Read this one. The U.S. Department of Agriculture just signed off on the proposed plans for regulating hemp as submitted by the state of Maryland and the Lower Sioux Indian community in Minnesota, as part of a larger program where each state, territory, and sovereign native tribe has to submit for approval its plan to regulate industrial hemp, made legal in 2018's Farm Bill. So far, 55 plans in all have been approved. And finally for today, we have a bit of a wonky media story, but one that I think has more general newsworthy merit, as former Tribune publisher Tony Hunter, who left publishing in 2019 to take up the CEO role of multi-state cannabis operator Revolution Enterprises, will head back into media, with the announcement that he will be serving as the new CEO of the newspaper chain McClatchy, which is working its way through bankruptcy proceedings. We usually see stories of people jumping out of traditional sectors to get into cannabis, so I thought it was interesting to see one go the other way. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Natural Order Supply, and to our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.